Deep beneath the Chihuahuan Desert in northern Mexico, 1,000 feet below the sun-baked earth, a chamber waits in darkness. The air inside is heavier than air should be. The temperature hovers near 50 degrees Celsius, the humidity close to 100%. And rising from the floor, leaning against the walls, are crystals the size of pine trees. This is the Cueva de los Cristales, the Cave of Crystals, hidden inside the Naica mine in the Mexican state of Chihuahua. It is one of the most extraordinary geological discoveries of the modern age. It is also one of the most lethal places a human being can enter. To stand among its giants is to stand inside a furnace that quietly drowns the lungs. The story of Naica begins long before any human descended into its depths. Roughly 26 million years ago, volcanic activity pushed magma toward the surface of what is now Chihuahua. The heat fractured the limestone above and filled the cracks with mineral-rich fluids. As the magma slowly cooled, it left behind chambers saturated with calcium sulfate. Within those chambers, conditions were almost impossibly stable. For hundreds of thousands of years, water sat at a steady temperature near 58 degrees Celsius. At that exact threshold, a mineral called anhydrite slowly dissolved and transformed into another mineral called gypsum. Gypsum, given enough time and stillness, grows into selenite crystal. And time in the Cave of Crystals was effectively limitless. Atom by atom, molecule by molecule, the crystals grew. They grew for perhaps 500,000 years without disturbance. Some reached lengths of more than 11 meters and weights exceeding 50 tons, making them the largest natural crystals ever found. But the cave would never have been seen by human eyes without industry. The town of Naica grew in the late 19th century around a rich vein of silver, lead, and zinc. Mining began in earnest in 1794, and by the 20th century, the shafts ran deep beneath the desert. To work that deep, the miners had to fight an invisible enemy: water. The lower levels of Naica sat below the natural water table. Hot mineral water filled every cavity, every passage, every hidden chamber. The mining company, Industrias Peñoles, kept enormous pumps running day and night to hold the flood at bay. Without those pumps, the mine would drown in hours. With them, new corridors of stone could be opened, level by level. In 1910, miners broke into the first of Naica's hidden treasures, a glittering void they named the Cave of Swords. Its crystals were dazzling but modest, rarely more than a meter long. For nearly a century, it was considered a geological wonder in its own right. No one suspected that something far greater lay just 200 meters deeper. Then came the morning of April the 20th, 2000. Two brothers, Juan and Pedro Sánchez, were drilling a new exploration tunnel on the -300-meter level. Their drill broke through into open space. When they widened the opening and shone a light inside, they saw something no human had ever seen. A forest of translucent beams, taller than houses, glowed in the lamplight. The brothers had stumbled into the main Cave of Crystals. Word traveled quickly through the mine and then to the wider world. Geologists who arrived to inspect the chamber struggled to describe what they were seeing. The crystals were not merely large. They were perfect, glassy, almost architectural, leaning at impossible angles like the bones of a cathedral. But the cave revealed something else as well. The moment a human stepped inside, the danger became obvious. The temperature inside the chamber held steady between 45 and 50 degrees Celsius. The humidity sat at 90 to 100%. In such air, the human body cannot cool itself. Sweat will not evaporate. Heat builds with every breath. Worse still, the air itself becomes a hazard. When superheated, saturated air enters cooler human lungs, the moisture condenses inside the airways. Fluid begins to collect where there should be only oxygen. Within 10 minutes, an unprotected visitor can grow disoriented. Within 30, organ failure becomes a real possibility. Within an hour, the cave can kill. To study the chamber, scientists had to become something close to astronauts. The Italian geologist Paolo Forti, a leading expert on cave minerals, helped coordinate the Naica project beginning in 2006. Teams designed special refrigerated suits and breathing systems. The suits circulated ice water through tubing against the skin. The breathing packs cooled and dried each inhalation. Even with this equipment, expeditions were limited to 15 or 20 minutes at a time. Researchers measured, photographed, sampled, and retreated. Some collapsed at the cave entrance and had to be carried out. The cave tolerated visitors, but only briefly and only on its terms. Every minute inside was bought at a price. What they learned in those stolen minutes was remarkable. The crystals were composed of selenite, a transparent form of gypsum, and had grown at temperatures barely above the point where they would have dissolved again. Uranium-thorium dating suggested some had been growing for at least 500,000 years. Their size was a direct product of extraordinary patience. Stranger still were the things found trapped inside them. Microbiologist Penelope Boston, working with NASA, extracted ancient microbes from fluid inclusions sealed within the crystals. Some of these organisms appeared to be tens of thousands of years old, dormant but viable. They had survived on iron, sulfur, and other minerals in total darkness for longer than human civilization has existed. For astrobiologists, this was a revelation. If life could persist in such hostile conditions on Earth, it might persist beneath the surface of Mars or in the dark oceans of Europa. Naica became more than a mineralogical wonder. It became a window onto the limits of life itself. The cave that could kill a human being was a cradle for organisms unknown to science. Yet the cave of crystals existed in a fragile compromise. Its crystals had grown only because the chamber was flooded with hot mineral water. The pumps that kept the mine dry had, by accident, exposed them to the air. The moment those pumps stopped, the water would return. The moment they ran forever, the crystals would slowly weather and crack. In 2015, mining at Naica was suspended. The pumps were switched off. Within months, the lower levels began to refill. The cave of crystals slowly disappeared beneath warm, mineral-laden water, returning to the conditions in which it had grown. In a sense, the cave was being preserved, sealed away once more from human eyes and human lungs. Somewhere beneath the desert of Chihuahua, the giants stand in the dark again. Water laps against their flanks. New molecules of gypsum settle, atom by atom, onto crystals already 500,000 years old. The chamber that almost killed those who entered it is doing what it has always done. It is growing, patiently in silence, waiting for the next time the world goes looking.